Hello, welcome to Shad Life. I've been promising that I was going to talk about this for quite some time, but it's kind of challenging to know how I want to talk about it. So I'm going to give it a shot. And if this video ends up on YouTube, it's probably like the 10th one I've made talking about this. And I just wasn't pleased with them, so I didn't release them. So if this one's released, obviously I must be pleased with it. So what I want to talk about is how BMX saved my life. And it's a big deal to me because it is essentially like everything I am, who I am, what I am, is all based on my BMX experience throughout my life. Yes, as I get older, I don't ride like I used to. I don't ride as much as I used to. I'm doing a lot more mountain biking now, and I even do gravel biking and stuff like that. But at my core, I'm a BMXer, and I will always be a BMXer until the day that I die. It's just the way it is. It's like, whether I'm riding a BMX bike or not, that is who I am. And it's what most people know me as too. Right? So BMX saved my life because it gave me a sense of purpose. It did a lot more for me than just that, but let's just start with that to begin with. When I was younger, I had a best friend. His name was Elliot, and he was a troublemaker. All he wanted to do was get in trouble, and I used to hang out with him. He was actually the son of one of my mom's best friends, and we had known each other since I was like 3 or 4 or something like that, pretty young. And throughout my life we would hang out and stuff, and he was considered my best friend at the time, and he liked to get into trouble, and I would go get into trouble with him. Around age 12 or 13 or somewhere in there, it was 1980, I know that much. I was born in 67, in May of 67, so you do the math. So I'd have been 13, especially now because it's May. So what happened when I discovered BMX was I was obsessed with BMX. I first saw a magazine in 1979 before I actually got a bike called Bicycle Motocross Action. Up until then, I had no idea that there was actually a sport. Yes, I'd seen like Team Murray, cheap puffy BMX bikes and things that kids had, and I had a Schwinn Stingray at the time with the high-rise handlebars, and we were jumping our bikes. We'd go off in this little wooded area by my house. I lived in the inner city of Minneapolis, and there was this little oval dirt track behind some apartments, and there was a little roller in there, and we'd do circles around. We had fun, and I would pretend I was on a motocross bike or whatever. But when I saw that magazine, I was obsessed. I was like, oh my goodness, there is actually a sport, like an actual sport that is BMX. And so in 1980, my parents moved out to the suburbs, which is pretty tough for an inner city kid to go to the suburbs where people had money, and we didn't have any money. And my friend Elliot that I was always hanging out with, now I was farther away from him, and I actually met a good friend who's still a good friend of mine to this day. His name is Steve, and he might actually see this video, right? And we still chat and hang out sometimes or whatever, and we have a pretty good history and stuff. And he also had a BMX bike when I moved out to the suburbs, and he also was similar to me. He didn't, even though we were out in the suburbs, neither one of us had a bunch of money, so we kind of had to earn what we wanted, which is part of that, right? Like having to work and earn what you want really badly teaches you things in life versus I saw a lot of kids where parents just gave them everything And those kids grew up to be, kind of not very good at like doing something, right? They didn't have that core value of really working to earn something, right? But I had to earn, what I wanted, and that was a BMX bike. And I did paper routes, and I did the summer draw, Twin Cities Tree Trust. It was a program that you legally weren't able to work till you were 16 in this state, but I was able to work at 14 under a special program for lower income families. And so it was a summer job, and I did that for a couple of years. And so I was able to buy myself a decent BMX bike, and my friend Steve and I would ride together and stuff. So throughout my high school years, I really got way into BMX. And once I was 16, I started working at McDonald's, and then I could afford nicer bikes and stuff like that. And where this is kind of coming is because of my obsession with BMX. I still got in trouble a couple of times in my younger years, but I'd say right around 14 I was done with it. I wasn't going to steal anything anymore. I wasn't going to get in trouble. I just was done. I wanted to move on. But I was drinking. I got into drinking alcohol at a pretty young age. And it wasn't so readily available, thankfully. My parents weren't heavy drinkers or anything like that. My older sister definitely was, but she was off doing that elsewhere. She was in treatment at a pretty young age, things like that. And I had a younger sister who was still just a little kid, because she was quite a bit younger, because she's actually a half sister, because she was born from my stepdad, not my actual biological father. We'll talk about that stuff in another video. But where BMX played a big role was, even though I was drinking, I didn't drink out of control and stuff all the time. Yes, there were a couple times I partied hard, got super wasted, whatever. But for the most part, once I mixed drinking and biking, and I crashed on my BMX bike and stuff like that, I realized, whoa, I need to not be stupid, right? So if I knew I wanted to ride my bike, I wouldn't be drinking. And that was a lifesaver for me. So even though I drank and was a problem drinker for many years during those years, BMX was what kept me from getting any more into drinking than I was already. And it also kept me completely away from drugs. I would say when I was 19 or something, I tried marijuana a couple times, and I didn't like it, thankfully. But I was pretty heavy drinker up until I was 24. I was, would go party and things like that. But if I had a BMX race the following day, or I had something, there were a couple times I drank and then I was hungover for doing a race and stuff. I hated that feeling, so I avoided doing that. BMX gave me a sense of purpose. And because of that, I was able to define myself as, I don't want to ruin my life, right? Doing these other things, because I am so passionate about riding my bike. And man, if anything happened to where I couldn't ride my bike anymore, I would have been devastated. So it was really important to me that BMX was a sense of purpose. BMX also taught me that I had to work for what I wanted in two ways. One, I had to work a job and make money so I could afford what I like to do. And two, if I wanted to learn something on my BMX bike, if I wanted to learn a new trick, or I wanted to get faster racing, because I was racing BMX at the time, I had to train. I had to work for it. I was never a natural on a bike. I had to earn everything that I gained, or every skill that I had, through practice. And bringing up Steve again, him and I would go, there were a couple of flat areas we'd practice flatland, or we'd go to the local Taco Bell and Burger King parking lot, and I remember one of those. I don't remember which one it was. If it was Burger King or Taco Bell, they were next door to each other. One of them redid their parking lot, like repaved it. It was such a nice place to ride. But we'd have cars coming in and out. We'd be doing BMX tricks and stuff in the lot. Little flatland ground tricks and stuff. So I was way into it. I was reading the magazines all the time. I was into it. When I got into my early 20s and 24, I actually quit drinking entirely. For 7 years, I ran a bicycle shop called Twin City BMX. I'll talk about that in another video, because otherwise this video is just going to get like massively long if I get into all these details. But then after Twin City BMX closed down, I started drinking again. I met a woman, started dating her. She drank. And I was like, oh, I'm no longer this, young, out of control person. I can handle my drinking. So I started drinking again. And for a while I was fine. But over time, I wasn't biking as much, which was one thing. And certainly not BMX. I was doing more mountain biking and things like that. But I wasn't doing it as much as I wanted to do. And I was also, after the bike shop closed, this was in the late 90s, kicking off my new career, which was software development or software engineering, whichever you want to call it, which is what I still do today. But I was kicking that career off, so I was working really hard at that. Kind of going back to the thing, I needed to learn how to write code, so I used that thing I knew from BMX. I had to work for it if I wanted to learn it and succeed at my career. So BMX saved me. I credit BMX for teaching me how to get into this career that I've been very successful with ever since, what was it, 1999 or something like that. I was in my early 30s. So yeah, it completely saved my life, and it helped me evolve to the career that I'm in, and again gave me more purpose, made me become successful. Running a bike shop was fun, but it didn't make that much money. Doing software, suddenly now I'm a professional making decent money. Software engineers make good money. If you want to be in a good career, get into technology. It's what the future is, right? It's been that way for a long time. Anyway, so I would have never been able to do that stuff had I not learned those hard lessons and becoming obsessed with BMX, having to work to get the bike parts I needed and things like that, and just being dedicated to it. And so unfortunately I was starting to drink again, and over time I got worse. But again, biking kind of kept me unfortunately in the mountain biking community, and I was always kind of questioning it. Drinking is a big part of the cycling community. It's like, oh, you go ride your bike and you have some beers, or you go ride your bike and go to the bar, or you go ride your bike. Like drinking, and there's even sponsorships now, drinking and bicycling, whether it's road biking, mountain biking, whatever, just so intertwined. And now, like, even the X Games, Pacifico is a sponsor, right? And it's just like, what in the world is going on, right? So yeah, it was just part of the culture. It was like drinking. I was drinking, and I got to a point where I was drinking every day. I wasn't getting totally wasted, but I would always have 2 or 3 beers every single day. And again, I just, I had a pretty rough marriage. I actually have been married twice. The first one wasn't anything like the second one, but the second one, my wife was an addict, and we got sober for a while, but then she went back out and I went back out, and it was a mess. And I was really in love with her, but she couldn't get sober. And there was a point in time 6.5 years ago that I was just like, I'm done. I'm not gonna drink anymore. And I was hoping she would be able to get sober, but I'm learning, because now I'm in Al-Anon. Al-Anon is for codependents. It's not for the alcoholics. It's for the people that have been in relationships with alcoholism and addiction and stuff like that. And in Al-Anon, I've learned I can't control another person's actions. I can't control their behavior. I can't make them stop drinking. I thought I could. I thought I could have influence in things, and it was just driving me crazy. So I ended up finally having to get a divorce. And so, yeah, I've been sober 6.5 years, and I've been really working on myself and reanalyzing my life and what I'm about. And I started this YouTube channel, and I'm working my job that I really like as a software engineer. I'm a lead now, where I lead some of these younger, really talented developers who are freaking awesome. I love them. And it is just so cool where I'm at today. And I'm proud of myself. And that's something, you believe it or not, I've struggled to ever be proud of myself. Sure, I would have little micro moments where I'd learn a trick and I was proud of myself for learning a trick, or I would have little successes. But overall, I never really had a very strong self-opinion or good self-opinion of myself, or whatever I'm trying to say, how I'm trying to word it. This is a perfect example. I'm okay with like babbling things out and then not saying them correctly, because it is just how I am and how lots of people are, right? And it's kind of this YouTube channel. Like, I don't expect it to be perfect. I don't over edit things. I don't try to polish everything up or whatever. I want it to be real, and I think a lot of people appreciate that. But where I'm at today, you know, I credit BMX for who I am. And my friend Steve, still right up there, my best friend, and I think it's so cool that we're still connected, and we talk about biking, and we can talk about other stuff, and it's super cool. And yeah, I'm a different person, totally. I have self-confidence. I believe in myself. I am doing this YouTube channel, which there's no way my self-esteem would have allowed me to do that 5-6 years ago, right? I didn't think highly enough of myself. But the way I see it now is I have all this knowledge. I've been into bikes for so long, BMX, mountain biking, now more recently gravel riding, road, whatever you want to call it. And I love bikes, and I know a lot of technical things. I don't know everything. And I'm also, from what people tell me anyway, and this is one of those new things I got to really believe in myself in. People tell me I'm a good teacher, I'm patient, I can explain things a certain way, things like that. And when people give me that feedback, I now receive it and accept it. As where before I'd be like, no, they're just saying that. Oh, I don't believe that, whatever. I'm a different person now. If somebody gives me feedback about something that I'm doing right, I'm like, or if they give me feedback about something I'm doing wrong, or that I made a mistake or something, I can accept that too, and then I can learn from it and evolve from it. I don't get down on myself. I'm like, oh, I'm going to evolve from that bit of advice I just got. You know, as long as it's legitimate. There's a lot of people out there, especially on the internet, that just like to say stuff that's ridiculous, right? Those people, they have their own self-esteem issues that they need to work on, because that's why they do it. They insult others, criticize others to make themselves feel better. Well, that's not a good way to make yourself feel better. So there you have it. How BMX saved my life. It was just, you know, I was so passionate about it. It gave me a sense of purpose, and it led me to understanding how certain things work, and allowed me to move into where I am today, into my career, all of that stuff. It taught me so much, and I will always be passionate about the BMX aspect of who I am. I appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.